So, what if your New Year's resolution wasn't about changing yourself at all? What if it was about loving everything you already are and everything that will ever happen to you? Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and, frankly, most challenging resolutions ever made from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. It's a radical way to look at your life, your fate, and your future. Okay, let's start right here with the core idea. Amor fati, the love of your fate. This is the heart of his resolution, and it's what we're going to unpack. I mean, just think about that statement for a second. To want nothing to be different, not in the past, not in the future. It's a breathtakingly bold idea. And to really get it, you have to understand the man who was pretty much forced to create it out of his own suffering.
So let's rewind to the early 1880s. You have to understand this philosophy wasn't dreamed up in some comfortable armchair. No, it was forged in the fire of a really intense personal crisis for Nietzsche.
He was just plagued by terrible sickness. We're talking blinding migraines, vision problems, constant nausea. And on top of that, he was in a state of deep spiritual despair. He felt trapped, frozen by these life-denying moods. And knowing this is absolutely crucial because his philosophy wasn't some abstract exercise. It was a lifeline he was building for himself.
You know, Nietzsche himself used this amazing metaphor for what was happening to him, a spiritual thawing. He literally saw himself breaking free from these massive ice sheets of pessimism and despair that had trapped him. So this wasn't just a small recovery, it was a total philosophical rebirth, like a new sun rising after a long, dark, frozen winter.
And this whole transformation didn't just happen gradually. It really crystallized in this one powerful declaration he made in January of 1882. He actually framed it as a New Year's resolution for his own soul. He called the section Sanctus Januarius, which means Saint January. Now, why is that so important? Well, January is named for Janus, right? The two-faced Roman god who looks to the past and to the future. Nietzsche takes this idea of sainthood and makes it personal. It's not about religion, it's about a secular miracle, the miracle of renewing yourself, of choosing to affirm life.
And this is how he kicks off this new year. It's such a brilliant flip of Descartes' famous, I think, therefore I am. For Nietzsche, living and thinking aren't just things that happen. They're commands. They're active imperatives. He's basically tying his very survival to the ongoing, necessary struggle to think and create his way out of the darkness. He must live because his work isn't done.
So what is this revolutionary idea at the heart of his new beginning? It's a concept that would become the cornerstone of his philosophy, amor fati.
Amor fati. It literally means love of fate, but the key word there, the one that changes everything, is love. This is not about just gritting your teeth and accepting what happens to you. It's about actively, passionately choosing to embrace every single part of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful, as essential pieces of the whole picture of your life. Now, it's really easy to confuse this with something like Stoicism, but they are worlds apart. You see, the Stoics taught a kind of passive acceptance. Endure your fate, don't complain. But Nietzsche is demanding so much more. He wants a joyful, willed love of your destiny. It's the difference between quietly putting up with a storm and learning how to dance in the rain.
So we can kind of break this down into three key principles. First, you have to unconditionally affirm everything in your life. Second, you have to completely reject resentment. No more if-onlys, no more blaming the world. And third, that active embrace we just talked about. You don't just bear what's necessary, you learn to love it.
But Nietzsche, being Nietzsche, doesn't just stop there. He takes this idea to a whole other level. He argues that to truly love your fate, you have to stop seeing yourself as just a character in your life story and become its author. You have to become an artist, and your life, that's your masterpiece.
And this shows you how to do it. First, you face what you can't change. The raw material, the block of marble that is your existence. Then, you reevaluate it. You look for the hidden beauty, the strength that's only found in the struggle. And finally, you become the artist. You take all of it, the good and the bad, and you consciously shape it into something meaningful, something spectacular. You become the poet of your life.
And this is where Nietzsche gets really radical. He says that any belief system that tells you to avoid suffering, to seek a life of pure comfort and ease, is actually life-denying. In a world that's constantly trying to sell us easy happiness, Nietzsche says no. Suffering isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's the very thing that gives you strength, depth, and creative power.
It's what makes the artwork of your life truly profound. Okay, so how do you know? How do you know if you've really achieved amor fati? How can you test whether you've become a true yes-sayer to life? Well, Nietzsche proposes one final and honestly devastating thought experiment.
So I want you to ask yourself this question right now. And be brutally honest. Not a slightly improved version of your life. Not the one where you didn't make that one big mistake. This exact life, with every single victory and every single heartbreak, repeated over and over and over again forever. Could you say yes?
That's the test, the eternal recurrence. Now, this isn't a literal theory about the universe. It's a philosophical gut check. To be able to look at the entire story of your life, the beautiful and the brutal, and shout a triumphant yes again, well, that's the highest possible expression of loving your fate.
And this brings us all the way back to Nietzsche's own words from his resolution. His ultimate wish is to get beyond blame, beyond resentment, to stop fighting with reality. His goal is to become, as he puts it, only a yes-sayer, a person who affirms life in its totality without reservation.
And that's where we'll leave it, with one final massive question for you to think about. Is this demand to love everything, including the worst parts of your life, is that a cruel, impossible ideal? Or is it the key to the ultimate freedom? A liberation from regret, from resentment, and from that quiet desperation of wishing things had been different. That is the challenge and the incredible promise of Nietzsche's New Year.